Hi, I'm Mike Beliveau, and today we're back out at Duelist Den, and we're going to be looking at my original Colt 1851 Navy Revolver. Now, this gun was manufactured by Colt in Hartford, Connecticut in 1862, and it's in pretty marvelous shape, though I did have to have a few things done to it, and I still have one more thing to do, but I wanted to take it out and show it to y'all. So today we're going to do a little bit of shooting with it. I just want to see where it prints on paper. Might do a little bit of steel shooting because I don't have a lot of time. This was actually a work day out at Duelist Den, and it's one of those things where I had a list of things to do, and I'm sure you've all been there. I thought I could do it, you know, in a few minutes, half an hour maybe. And as it turned out, it took me 2.5 hours. So I really ate in to a lot of my videoing time. And then of course it takes me about an hour to get set up for videoing. So it's not a lot of time, but I do want to see how this functions because it just came back from Lodgewood Manufacturing. So let me show you the gun, and then we'll load it up, and then we'll go see what it does. Well, here's a look at my Colt 1851. As I said, it was made in 1862, so right in the Civil War years. This was the second most popular cap and ball revolver in Colt's inventory. And the most popular was the 1849 pocket model, so people liked compact carry even then. But this was a breakthrough gun for Colt because pretty much up until this time, his success rested on the .44 caliber Walker and Dragoons. But people generally could not carry those for long in a belt holster. They were usually carried in pommel holsters. So everybody was looking for a good, effective holster pistol, a belt revolver. And Colt decided that basically his Patterson model represented about the ideal size, weight, and balance for a belt gun, and that .36 caliber had been found to be barely adequate by Texas Rangers, and he decided that he could make a better .36 caliber gun than the Patterson, and he did. And this is it. Came out in 1850. It was a beautiful gun. And as I said, extremely popular. People liked .44 caliber power, but they prized the portability of the .36, and that seemed to get the job done for them. So no harm, no foul, right? Now, this gun, I'm going to tell you what I paid for it. I probably shouldn't, but I paid $1,000 for this. And even though $1,000 is a lot of money, and it's a lot of money to me, I'm not made of money, but for a Colt Navy, it is really cheap. I mean, you're going to find them anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 and up. But the 2,000 range would be about average these days. I mean, this and the Colt Army are probably the two most popular guns with buyers in the marketplace right now. They're not the most expensive guns because they're not the most rare. I mean, they both were over 200,000 made, so there's plenty of them around. But they're the guns that buyers want because they have the cachet. So the value of these things has gone up quite a bit over time. Now, the reason I got this as cheap as I did is because it's been nickeled. And they were not originally nickeled. So an original finish on a Colt would look like this Uberti, right? It would be blued with a color case hardened frame and hammer, which is a lovely finish. So by nickeling this, they really took away the collector's value. Now, this is an old nickel job, and nickeling did not come in until the mid-1870s, I think about 1875. When it did, it became extremely popular because it was a more durable finish than blue, and because it provided some help with the corrosion of black powder fouling. So why did this gun get nickeled? Which I reckon was probably done around 1890, maybe a little bit earlier. And it was a very good job. I mean, this was not some shoddy job, but by nickeling it, they took the roll engraving off over here when they polished it out and did a few things like that. But it still has the barrel markings legible. But my guess is that this gun was probably owned by someone who got it in 1862 and had it for many years. It's been used. This was not a safe queen, but it was not abused. And my guess is that he had upgraded to a cartridge gun and probably had this nickeled to give it as a gift, maybe to his oldest son. Now, I'm just speculating, but I would guess that's what it was. That he figured this is a good revolver for a boy to start off with, and certainly Elmer Keith cut his teeth on these back in the early 20th century even, so plenty of people were still using them as good effective six guns. So I think this has been passed down the family, and it came to me in pretty good shape, but not perfect shape. And I did what I usually do with cap and ball revolvers I get. I sent it to Dave Stavlo at Lodgewood Manufacturing. And a lot of people think of Lodgewood Manufacturing as the guys who defarb Civil War weapons, basically make them look like authentic guns. But Dave is an outstanding gunsmith on cap and ball revolvers, and he works on a lot of originals. He buys them and refurbishes them and sells them for his own business. And he's a guy that I absolutely trust, and he happens to have a huge supply of parts. Original, unissued parts, new old stock as they call it. And these parts were mostly made back in the 50s and 60s. There was a guy who was outfitting the North-South Skirmish Association, basically. He did all the gunsmithing for those guys, and they were all shooting with original guns then. The replica market had not come into existence. And he manufactured a bunch of parts to Colt tolerances, nipples, and all sorts of small parts, loading levers, you name it. So if you've got a broken part, Dave can probably fix it. Not with a vintage Colt part, which you could go hunting for, but with a remanufactured part that's exactly like the Colt part. And I've done that myself because I'm cheap. And I'll find a gun with issues. And if it's got issues that I can deal with, that I know Dave can fix or I can fix, and the price is right, I'll buy it. I mean, you've all seen my 1860 Army. I got that for almost $1,000 less than they were asking for it, because I pointed out everything that was broken on it and what the price should be. And I got it for what I consider to be a fair price, and then a couple $100 worth of parts and work. Got it up to scratch. So it's the same on this. The first thing that Dave does is almost always you'll find that the cones, the nipples are frozen in the cylinder. And Dave gets those out. Sometimes he can soak them in penetrating oil and unscrew them, which 3 of these did. But some of them he had to drill out. The other main problem with this is that the bolt that holds the hammer was actually broken inside. Everything was holding together, but I couldn't unscrew it. The screw turned, but nothing backed out. And that was more of a challenge, but Dave got that out and he replaced it with a Colt part that he polished the bluing off. So this is actually not nickeled. This is just bright steel, so I gotta watch that. The other issue I had is that it had what I'm pretty sure was an Uberti mainspring, not a Colt mainspring. And they're a little bit short. Now, I could have probably lived with it, but Dave replaced that with a Colt mainspring. And the final issue I had, it had a really rattly loading lever, and the spring had obviously lost its oomph. So Dave replaced that with a tighter spring, and now this thing is absolutely gorgeous. Now, the other issue I had that Dave didn't want to work on is the front sight. I'm going to see if you guys can see that. Okay, so the front sight is a nub. I mean, it is tiny. It is less than half the height of the tiny front sight that typically comes on a Colt Navy. And I don't know if this was worn down over the years or if it was polished out when they were polishing for the bluing. But I'm going to test it out, but my guess is this thing is going to be shooting 2 or 3 feet high. I'm quite concerned about that. So I'm probably going to be replacing the sight. Now Dave wouldn't replace it because he solders them in and it would have ruined the nickel. What I'm probably going to do is the same thing I did on this Uberti, which is I am going to dovetail in a silver front sight. And I know you're probably thinking, oh my God, you're going to ruin an original doing that. Well, I'm not going to ruin it. It already has minimal collector's value because of the nickeling, and all I'm going to do is enhance it as a shooter. So if I were to sell this after putting that sight on it, I would still get more than I paid for it. So I'm not concerned about that. And it's not going to do anything to damage the integrity of the gun. So that's the Colt Navy. So let's load it up and see where it's actually hitting. Okay, so we're going to be loading this today with 380 round balls and Swiss 3FG powder. This is in a GoX can because I've got these spouts I've been using for 40 years that of course fit on the metal cans. They don't fit on the plastic ones. So I keep recycling my cans. Alright, I'm going to load 20 grains, really 19 grains, of 3FG Swiss powder. I've placed the gun on half cock so the cylinder will spin freely. And I'm going to just put that load there, right in. Alright, now I'm going to take felt wads. I gotta admit I messed up on this. I thought I was grabbing a bag of my wads. I think I got some crappy old Wonder wads, but anyway, I'm gonna put some felt wads in. Level that off. Then I'm gonna take a 380 round ball. Now I find in Ubertis and Piettas that 375s work just fine. However, I am used to eroded chamber mouths in new guns. So just in case, I'm using the 380. And then we just ram it home. Okay, it's just that simple. Now I'm going to load 5 chambers. And I know quite a few of you were just about peeing your pants in joy when I loaded 6 chambers on the Ruger video. But this is not a Ruger. And what I trust on a Ruger, I don't necessarily trust on a 160-year-old Colt. So I'm going to load up 5 and then we'll cap it. Alright, I'm going to cap it with my Ted Cash capper. I used that Swedish capper in the last video and I like it. I think it's a good one for field use. But got more caps in the Ted Cash capper, but this is a new one and it is a little bit problematic. I've got a Polish capper on order. I know some of you guys wanted to see that. It costs $50. But I'm going to get one and I'm going to try it out for you guys. I always push these on just to make sure. Alright. Now this gun, by the way, is missing all of the safety pins. So that's not unusual with these older guns for them to be missing. So I would not want to load 6 on it regardless, just so you know. But I certainly wouldn't load 6 without a safety pin. By the way, if you guys like stickers, the Duelist end sticker, which you see on my toolbox, is available at my Teespring store. So you can see that in the link underneath the video, or you can go out to MikeBeliveau.com and there's a link to it there. And if you like them, plaster them over everything. Okay, this will be my first time firing the 1851 Navy Colt, the original. So sometimes I get surprised. Now, if you look out at the target, which is 15 yards downrange, I've got the aiming point right at the bottom of the target board, because that little nubbin of a front sight, I think, is going to make this gun shoot very high. So I'm going to hope I can keep it on paper. We'll see. So let's take it out for its maiden voyage. Okay, I have been proved incredibly wrong. I'm shooting about 6 or 7 inches over the point of aim, and that's all. That is amazing. I don't know if anybody shortened up the hammer nose, which they may have. Hard to tell. But anyway, let's go take a look at that target, because I'm sure you'll be impressed. Okay, well, here we are on target, and you can see maybe 6-8 inches above. I got a couple of flyers up there, but really, those sights, I'm not going to mess with them at all. I'm going to leave it original. Quite happy. Okay, I was not that crazy about the way Remington number 10 caps fit, so I'm trying RWS 1075s right now, and I just put them on using the Swedish capper. So anyway, let's see how they do. Well, Evil Roy should feel honored, because he's about to get shot with a piece of history. Okay. Got a little cap jam here. So I guess that answers the question, does it ever happen on originals? You know what? This gun shoots pretty darn good. I guess old Sam knew how to make them. Well, out of the 3 brands of caps that we tried, CCI number 11s get the nod on these nipples. They're the best fitting. So, just to salt that away for future use. If you get an original, try them with CCI number 11s. Well, I've been out here at Duelist Den shooting this Colt Navy for a good bit of the afternoon. And in fact, I've been out here a lot longer than I planned to be. As I told you, I had a work day that took me a lot longer than I expected, and I thought I was really going to cut my shooting session short with this. But as it turned out, it was so much fun to shoot, I just couldn't put it down. I just kept loading it and shooting it. So I've probably put 30 or 40 rounds through this thing today, which is a fair number for a cap and ball revolver. And I've got some general impressions on it. Now, I own a number of originals. It's not a museum full, but I've got a few. And I put them in 3 categories. I've got some guns that are like new, probably never fired. And my guess is they were loaded and dropped into a pocket or a purse and carried against that hour of need that luckily never came. And they're in outstanding condition. Most of my guns I would put in category 2, which is used but not abused. You know, they're 150 years old, anywhere from 100 to 150 years old. And they show plenty of good honest wear. But they haven't been abused. They all function fine. They're in good shape. And then I've got a few guns that were rode hard and put away wet. And that's tough in the age of black powder. Now, I had originally put this 1851 Navy in the second category, used but not abused. When I first got it, I took it apart. The lockwork was nice, clean, beautiful condition. But the gun had obviously been used. I mean, you can tell it's been fired, been used quite a bit, but it's been cared for. So I was pretty pleased with that, right? But now that I've shot it, I've kind of modified my view of this gun. To say this was a gunfighter's gun, well, I don't know. You know, how can we know? But I'm pretty sure that this gun, this Colt Navy, belonged to a man who cared about his weapons, whose weapons were important to him, and who wanted them to work, and work the way he wanted them to. This gun, I think, has been tuned up. Not just the slickness of use over age. This gun is very smooth. The trigger is just under 3 pounds, and it is crisp as breaking glass. I mean, to me, that's from a gunsmith working on it. That is not just from using it over 150 years. I think this is a gun that belonged to somebody who wanted his gun to do what he wanted it to do when he needed it. And you can just tell. I mean, this gun wants to go. You know, when you cock it, it cocks easy. When you shoot it, it breaks clean and it hits where you're pointing. So I think this is one of those rare guns that belonged to somebody who was either a dedicated amateur or who had a professional reason for wanting his gun to perform. And I feel pretty lucky to have it. Well, guys, I think most of you know the drill. If you like this, thumbs up, right? It helps us with the algorithm, that all-important algorithm. If you're not a subscriber, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel. We got a lot of content like that. If you liked it, there's plenty more good stuff like this on the channel. So if you're a newcomer to us, go through the old videos, and I'm sure you'll find plenty that you like if you like this. We've got plans for the future. I will probably be doing this with paper cartridges in the future as well, comparing them to round ball shooting. So look forward to that. And I'll try to give you a look at how these compare to Piettas and Ubertis. It'll be a little hard with the Piettas because I've modified my Piettas so they're not quite as Pietta-ish. But we'll take a look at those. So, got a lot of things planned. Plenty of flintlocking stuff planned. And while I was here on work day, I put up a flintlocking novelty target, you might say. It's for tomahawk and knife throwing. Well, let's take a little look at that. You'll get to see that in some future 18th century oriented video, and pretty soon I'll be coming to you with a channel update. We're going to have a giveaway. I just have to make the stuff that we're giving away. Okay, so anyway, if you enjoyed it, I hope we see you again next week. Bye.